It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood from coast to coast and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Joining me is Dr. Tierona Low Dog, author of the book, Healthy at Home. Dr. Low Dog is here to help us learn how to take charge of our health in a natural way by using remedies such as herbs and simple home practices to treat many ailments. Dr. Low Dog was appointed by President Bill Clinton to the White House Commission on Complementary and Alternative Medicine, and she served on the advisory board for the National Institutes of Health National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine. She's appeared on 2020, CNN, and Dr. Oz, and she writes a monthly column for Prevention Magazine. Dr. Low Dog is the author of Life is Your Best Medicine, A Woman's Guide to Health, Healing, and Wellness at Every Age. Welcome, Dr. Low Dog. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Dr. Low Dog, medications are prescribed routinely today, and it seems like we have this let's take a pill and go home mentality, that this pill is the answer to all of our problems. And while it's true in some cases, medication is the absolute best approach, isn't it true that we are over-medicating today?
I don't think there's any question that we're over-medicating. And if we really discussed it, I mean, with the, now we've prescribed 120 million prescriptions for proton pump inhibitors last year for heartburn. Really? That many people have heartburn? Mm-hmm. And now the FDA has mandated that the proton pump inhibitor commercials that are on the television, that they actually disclose some of the risks. They increase your risk for fractures and osteoporosis. They can cause your magnesium levels to plummet to dangerously low levels, which can cause your heart to have abnormal rhythms or to have seizures. They can deplete B12 in the body, which is important for mental health and mood. And they disrupt, your microflora in your body, making you more at risk for foodborne illness as well as pneumonia. So, this is one example. Antidepressants are another. I'm concerned that, one, that we have the degree of depression that we have, but that it seems like the only treatment that we really want to offer are prescription antidepressants. And this is, and the most rapidly growing group that are receiving antidepressants are actually adolescents. And in some cases, like in the South, in the southeast part of the United States, 1 in 5 high school boys are taking psychostimulants for ADHD. 1 in 5. Think about this. And the antidepressants, as a physician, I'll just tell you, I mean, I've certainly prescribed them for people that have more severe forms of depression. But, this notion that people who've, had maybe abuse in their life or have had very poor social relationships, have really, really struggled with many, many things in their lives, that simply in a 15-minute visit and then giving a prescription that, for an antidepressant, that somehow adjusting your serotonin is suddenly going to make everything in your life better, has just seemed to me to be a very odd concept. And it doesn't fit with the world's real-life experience, that the medication may be useful, especially if you have more severe forms of depression, but also then counseling and other things that can sort of help you reframe things in your life are just as important as the medication. So yes, I agree with you that I think we're over-medicated. The purpose of writing this book, Healthy at Home, was really about how, as a physician, can I help empower and educate? I love that. That's what you started your show with. How can I empower and educate people to be able to take care of so many of these kinds of common problems at home, feeling comfortable knowing when they can treat them at home and what to use. But also in the book, I'm very clear. If these symptoms are also present or these things get worse, and I lay those out in the book, that means it's time to call the doctor or it's time to go to the urgent care.
Now, doctor, it's been reported by the Centers for Disease Control that in the United States, antibiotic resistance costs $20 billion in excess healthcare costs each year, and that 50% of antibiotics prescribed are not needed or they're not prescribed properly. So, now we're in cold and flu season and it just seems like everyone is sick. So what is it that we can do about this? I mean, I have friends that come down with a cold, and the first thing they do is go in their medicine cabinet, pull out an old antibiotic that they had, and they start taking it. And I scream at them for this. And what is it that we can do to tell people don't do this?
Well, I think it's because people feel bad and they don't know what else to do. And there are so many natural approaches that are more effective than antibiotics for viral infections because an antibiotic can't do anything for a virus. So, for instance, things like elderberries. Elderberries are wonderful for cold and milder cases of flu, not more severe cases, but milder cases of influenza. Elderberries inhibit the flu virus replication. There's been 2 studies looking at it at being effective in people who have the flu. So elderberries, perfectly safe, very gentle, can be used for children and adults, and you can just keep some elderberry syrup in the cupboard. Umka, I know that sounds like a funny name, but it's short for Umka luwabu, which is a Zulu name for a South African geranium. Umka has had more than 18 clinical studies looking at its effectiveness for shortening the duration and severity of a cold. And Umka is available at any health food store and most pharmacies are carrying it now. And believe it or not, Umka was recommended. It was given a strong recommendation in the Academy, the Family Practice Academy journal, the American Academy of Family Practice. And so many family doctors are now recommending it as well, which I am delighted. I'm delighted that now in mainstream medicine, there are some of these products that have had good science and good studies behind them. And that's where natural medicines really come in. That's where they're so strong, is in these kind of minor complaints that don't need prescription medication.
So, doctor, what types of conditions can we treat at home?
Oh, you can treat so many things. The book, I did not get in the book into, high blood pressure or cancer or things that I really believed you need to be in partnership with a trusted healthcare provider that you can talk to and work with. But I talk about menstrual cramps and headaches and heartburn and all the colds and coughs and congestion and insomnia and anxiety. And so many of these things are so amenable to natural approaches. I go through the recipes. I give people recipes because you can certainly buy these products in a health food store already made. But I like to reiterate that you can make thyme cough syrup at home, and it works great, and it's easy to make, and it's delicious. And the science supports both the honey and the thyme in the cough syrup, and you can make it for, $1. Costs you a lot less than what you're going to buy at the store. And if you enjoy, I think actually many people like making basic remedies. There's something, nostalgic, empowering, people feeling like I can make something to help my child's cough right here, with stuff I got at the grocery store and stuff I have in the cupboard. And you know what? It works. I remember back when the FDA, they didn't ban over-the-counter cough and cold medicines in children under 6, but now they were required to put a label on them that they were not to be used in children under 4. The cold and cough remedies, not Advil or things like this, but cold and cough remedies were not to be given to children under the age of 4, and that you should talk to your doctor if the child was between the ages of 4 and 6. This was in response to physicians saying, we are seeing a lot of problems with little kids taking these medications. They're neither safe nor are they effective. So the FDA mandated that the companies put this warning label on these products, and it caused a 50% reduction in kids coming to the ER with adverse effects from these drugs. So that was a huge move. But what it did leave was now people with 3-year-old kids with ear infections and sore throats and snotty noses, and they don't know what to do. And I cover that, I call it munchkin medicine in the book, because for moms and dads, there are a lot of things you can do for your kids to help with those runny noses, sore throats, coughs, all of those things that are safe, easy, and effective.
So, doctor, what are some of the things that people should keep in their home? I mean, I love garlic. I just came off of a cold, and the minute I woke up with a cough, I started eating raw garlic, and I started pumping in the vitamin C, and I started making soups with all types of vegetables and chicken and everything that I could think of that I thought would be healthy. First of all, did I do the right things? And are those the types of things that you recommend others do?
You did wonderful. I love the chicken soup with vegetables, and you also want to leave the bones in the chicken when you're cooking it, right? Because those bones are loaded with lots of good things, and hopefully we're using humanely raised and non-antibiotic enriched chicken, right? Because you don't want to consume animal products that were fed a lot of antibiotics, because that also feeds antibiotic resistance in them and in us. But chicken soup actually had a clinical study. Can you believe somebody got money to do a clinical trial on chicken soup? And indeed, it does work for the common cold.
It does work.
I know. I just think Grandma was right all along. Raw garlic used to be called poor man's penicillin because it is so effective for mild, microbes and mild infections, good for sore throats, etc. So I'm a huge fan. The other thing to remember for raw garlic is it's also great for traveler's diarrhea or for preventing traveler's diarrhea if you're going to another country. So I love what you did. I thought it was fantastic. But I think a number of things like thyme and sage, peppermint or peppermint essential oil is good. I love people to have honey and salt, oatmeal and baking soda. There are so many common things that you can do with that. For instance, sage. Let me just give you an example of sage. Sage is a wonderful antimicrobial. It kills many, many different kinds of bacteria, which is why it can be used topically for cuts and scrapes. Sage, as a gargle, not only is an antiseptic for the throat, but it's a pain reliever. Head-to-head studies have shown that sage and sage with echinacea is as effective for relieving sore throat pain as lidocaine. So I just want you to think about that. Mm-hmm. A very effective gargle for when you have a sore throat, especially like a viral sore throat. Sage also can be used by menopausal women. It inhibits excessive perspiration. In Europe, it's approved for something called hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweating. But sage is a remedy that has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years as women transition through menopause because it helps inhibit hot flashes and night sweats. You can just make a cup of sage tea and sip on it throughout the day, keep a little by the bedside at night in case you're waking up with a night sweat, and you just take the sage and it helps with that. Sage tea is great for coughs and congestion because it's an expectorant, so it helps get stuff up out of the chest. I mean, that's one herb, sage. Now think about that. So that's what the beauty of plants. My undergraduate work was at New Mexico State University. It's an Aggie school, and I have always loved plants. I'm an avid gardener. I love to cook. I study and research plants and plant medicine, and I'm just fascinated by the complexity of them and how they can interface with our own physiology on so many levels and do so more gently with fewer side effects. Now, that also means that they tend to not be as potent as some of our prescription drugs, but because they're not as potent, it makes them very, very effective for minor problems because they also have fewer side effects. The more potent the medication, often the more risky the side effect profile.
Can we use dried herbs, or do they have to be fresh?
Both. And in some cases, fresh is better. I like some things fresh. I love fresh thyme for the cough syrup. I think it also gives it a better flavor. And because they're fresh, you have more of those aromatic oils, those essential oils, for which, that's where a lot of the antiseptic is. Remember with thyme is rich in many essential oils, but dominantly one called thymol, and that's what's in Listerine. That's the main essential oil in Listerine that's used as an antiseptic. So thymol or thyme fresh is probably best, but you can use dried. And I dry a lot of my herbs from my garden and dry them so I can use them in the winter and throughout the winter. So they can certainly be used. I think the main thing with dried leaves and flowers is that after about a year they begin to lose their potency. And so, that's why if you've had time sitting in your kitchen cabinet, you bought it 3 years ago when you made that turkey and you haven't opened it and used it since, you probably need to buy some fresh thyme. If you want to use it medicinally, I would argue as a cook you should buy it new for cooking too, but it's probably lost a lot of its therapeutic properties because it's now so old. They keep about 1 year.
Doctor, if our listeners would like to get more information about you and your work, where can they go?
Oh, I'd love for them to come and visit me on my website. That's drlowdog.com. And on the website, we have information about my books that I've done with Nat Geo and others. If you feel like you need a little guidance with the book, a little support, the Julia Child of Herbal Medicine, we'll go into the kitchen and we'll put those up too. So it's a website that's got information, and it's also how you can reach me if you need to talk to me.
Doctor, before we run out of time, what is one thing that you would like our listeners to walk away with from this interview?
I would like people to remember, and I mean remember, that their body was specifically designed to be well. It is the most amazing miracle, and that your body from head to toe is literally just filled with natural defenses to keep you safe and to keep you healthy. And that when you do get sick, that, especially with these kind of minor common acute problems, that the body actually, in its wisdom, with just a little support, it can find its way back to health. It really can.
Doctor, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's personally my goal to never take any type of drugs in my life, and I'm midway, and so far so good. So I will keep with my...
I love your show. Good job, and thank you for bringing this kind of information to your listeners. It's important work you're doing.
Thank you, and best of luck with your book, Healthy at Home, and I look forward to having the opportunity to speak with you again.
I love it. Thank you.
We'll be right back. We all want to live a happy, productive life, but sometimes we just need a little help. Our Coach on Call experts provide strategies to help you cultivate effective life skills. Joining me today is Lauren McClure, a world-renowned life coach, psychotherapist, and author of the book, Soulmate, Master the Art of Aloneness and Transform Your Life. Lauren is here to tell us that it's possible to experience a sense of wholeness and well-being, whether you're in a relationship or on your own. Welcome, Lauren. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Lauren, we're taught from a very early age that we need another person to complete us, to make us happy. I mean, look at our fairy tales. The princess is always searching for her prince, and a woman who's older and hasn't been married is considered an old maid. So with all of these negative images, is it possible for us to embrace being alone?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Not only do we have a lot of negative associations with being alone, but it's something that we are taught to fear, feel ashamed of. Like you said, there's something wrong with us. And that conditioning starts really early. But I think it's even more than a fear of being alone. It's about this stress on relationships on other people. And no one's really talking about, unless maybe if we're lucky, when we're older, we go into therapy or something. But when we're little and we're being taught about how to function and how to operate and how to lead a healthy and fulfilling life, most parents are not talking to their children about the fact that their relationship with themselves is truly the primary one, because it's the only one that is going to last 24/7 from the time they're born until the time they die. And we neglect ourselves. We don't know how to have a relationship with ourselves. It's about learning how to truly have a healthy and joyful and respectful relationship with oneself. When we're born, we're very whole, integrated human beings. We're born with innate personality traits and innate strengths and talents and gifts. We're born with the ability to feel and express all of the wide range of human natural emotions, and we're born with a very intact self-esteem. And then the life conditioning process begins, and we become shaped and molded based on our environment, our experiences, role modeling, all of those things that shape us and create kind of an inner template by the age of 7 years old. And that template becomes the foundation for how we see ourselves, how we see the world, how we interact with the world, how we treat ourselves. And because most people come from families where there's some kind of dysfunction, they're no longer whole. There's parts of their wholeness that have been kind of chipped away or diminished or even completely disenfranchised. So in the unconscious quest for wholeness, most people grow up and they try to find completeness outside of themselves, very often through another person. And when you do that, you're dependent on someone else, whether it's for your emotional stability, whether it's for your sense of self-worth, whether it's for your security, whether it's for your self-identity. And if and when that person goes away, you get divorced, they die, then whatever they provided for you, whatever that dependency was, you are no longer complete. Not only that, but when you come into a relationship from a place of incompleteness, you tend to be needy, you tend to be demanding, and it definitely contaminates relationship. So when you've got two people that have taken responsibility for their own sense of wholeness, understanding who they are, and taking responsibility for their needs and being able to articulate them and set boundaries and treat themselves well, then they're less needy, and it's a very different type of relationship.
And you know what I found interesting? In your book, you wrote that for the first time, more American women are living without a spouse than with one, and Americans now spend half of their adult lives outside of marriage. So if this is the case in today's lifestyle or in today's world, why have our attitudes not kept up with these trends?
Well, like you said at the beginning, Joan, I don't think anybody's written any new fairy tales for a while, And so we keep defaulting back to the old story. And if you look at media messages, commercials, magazines, there's still articles and the way that, that even though the women's movement has certainly moved a lot in 40 years, a lot of things have changed, but there still remains this mindset. We haven't really caught up with the fact that the reality is that nearly half of all American singles or adults are single, and people don't realize that. And I think we're still kind of stuck in a time warp of this mindset of love cures all. All you need is love. And if this feeling, if I just had somebody to love me, life would be grand and wonderful. And it's kind of a temporary, certainly we need love, we need affection, we need support, we need nurturance. We are sexual beings. We need all that stuff. But it really starts with oneself, and if you're not okay with you, then whatever ails you, you're going to play it out in the marriage one way or the other, or in a relationship one way or the other.
How can we go about doing this? Let's talk about some of the fundamental keys to make this change.
So the first step is what I call embracing your aloneness. It's doing a very honest self-assessment to say, how am I doing in my life? How do I feel? What's my internal environment like? Do I walk around feeling confident and calm and relaxed and joyful? Do I walk around feeling insecure, ashamed, bad about myself, angry, resentful? Do I enjoy my time alone? Do I know how to feed my sense of self-worth and confidence from the inside out versus from the outside in? What areas of my life are working well, which ones are not? And how do I embrace aloneness, which is really another word for relationship with oneself? How do I really embrace that as an opportunity to develop a more joyful, fulfilling, whole, meaningful life for myself? So that's the first step, is embracing it and being able to really do an honest assessment. And then the next part is really digging down into the past, and that's the uncovering your conditioned self. And that's not necessarily an easy process because many people have a very painful background. They've gone through, childhoods that were less than ideal. But it's a very important piece of work, not to go down into the muck and mire and, get stuck in there and relive all your trauma and all that stuff, for over and over again, but simply to assess, to evaluate, to understand and connect the dots between where you are today and where you've been. What are the conditions that you grew up in? What are the limiting beliefs that you may have internalized and are rooted in your subconscious that you may not even be aware of? What are the habitual behaviors that you do every single day that keep, bringing you further away from the life that you want to have instead of closer?
And Lauren, what would be the next step in the process?
Managing fear so it doesn't manage you. I've found through my work and through my own life personally too, how fear can hold you captive. And it's kind of like elastic bands, keeping your feet stuck in the mud when you're trying to move forward and bring your goals and your vision and your dreams to fruition. Very often fear is one of those big barriers that holds us back. And most people's fears, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, all those kinds of very fundamental common fears are very often rooted in one's life conditioning.
If you'd like more information about Lauren, you can visit her website, laurenmackler.com. Lauren, thank you so much for being here with us today and for reminding us about why we need to establish a relationship with ourself.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Remember that the information presented are the opinions of our guests, and this information should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, you can visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, sign up for the mailing list, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.